I once believed that silence was comforting, but lately, it started to feel more like a punishment than peace. Every night in our apartment followed the same rhythm: the quiet hum of the refrigerator, her muffled laughter as she stared at her phone, and me pretending not to notice the distance between us. Her name was Rachel. For 3 years, she was everything to me. We weren't flawless, but we were good. Or so I wanted to believe. The kind of couple who texted during lunch breaks, made pancakes together on Sundays, and held on through little arguments. But something had shifted. She'd begun drifting, not just in thought, but in presence. It started small, longer showers before she went out, lip gloss she never used for me, guarding her phone like it held state secrets. I kept telling myself I was imagining things, that I was just insecure, but deep down I already knew. Then came the night of James's party. We hadn't gone out together in weeks, so I thought it might bring us closer. But as soon as we stepped inside, she gravitated toward a group near the bar, laughing too loudly, her hand brushing against arms that weren't mine. I stood in the corner, holding a drink I didn't want, watching the woman I loved act like a stranger. And then I saw him, Ethan, tall, confident, the kind of man who feeds on attention. He leaned close to whisper something that made her laugh and tilt her head back in that familiar way. Her hand rested lightly on his shoulder, too natural, too practiced. My chest tightened, but I stayed silent. When she finally came back, I smiled faintly and asked, "Having fun?" She smirked. That cold, careless kind of smirk that said she knew exactly what she was doing. "Don't tell me you're jealous," she teased. I met her eyes, calm and steady. "No," I said quietly. "I'm done." Her smirk faltered, confusion flickering across her face like she didn't understand what she'd just lost. But I did. I'd lost her long before that night. The party was just the moment I accepted it. We left early. The car ride home was drowned in silence. The city lights flickered across her face as she stared out the window, and I realized how many times I had mistaken distance for mystery. When we reached home, she went straight to bed without saying a word. I sat on the couch, watching the TV's dim glow, feeling something new. Not anger, not heartbreak, but clarity. The next morning, she tried to act like nothing had happened. "Coffee?" she asked softly, almost careful. I nodded, watching her move around the kitchen, pretending everything was fine. "About last night," she started. I cut her off. "You don't need to explain." "It's okay." Her eyes lifted. "You're not mad?" "No," I said quietly. "You can't be angry at someone for showing you who they really are." For a brief moment, she looked like she might say something real, an apology, maybe even the truth. But instead, she just shrugged and took a sip of coffee. That's when I knew it was truly over. That afternoon, I started packing. Not in a rush, not out of rage, just with quiet acceptance. I folded my shirts, unplugged the chargers, took down our framed photo from our first trip together, the one where she kissed my cheek under a gray, rainy sky, and placed it face down in the box. When she came home and saw me packing, her face twisted from confusion to disbelief. "You're actually leaving?" "Yeah," I said calmly. "You made your choice. I'm just accepting it." She crossed her arms, her voice sharp. "You're being dramatic." I almost laughed. "No, Rachel. I've just run out of excuses for you." She didn't reply. I think she assumed I was bluffing, that I'd come back once things cooled down. But I didn't. I moved into a small one-bedroom apartment across town. The first few nights were heavy. The silence still lingered, but this time it didn't feel punishing. It felt like healing. Weeks passed. I started eating better, sleeping better, thinking clearer. I learned to cook for one without feeling alone. I picked up books again, something I'd stopped doing because Rachel used to complain that I disappeared when I read. Then, one night around 11 p.m., my phone buzzed. Her name lit up the screen. "Do you ever think about us?" I stared at it for a while before replying, "Sometimes," but only to remind myself why I left. She never replied. A week later, I ran into her at a cafe near my office. She looked the same, polished, confident, but her eyes carried something new. Regret, maybe. She walked over with a hesitant smile. "Hey, stranger." "Hey," I said. "How have you been?" "Better," I answered, and I meant it. She tilted her head, studying me like I was a book she used to know how to read. "You really moved on, huh?" I smiled faintly. "You taught me how to." For a moment, silence hung between us. Then she gave that same smirk from that night, except this time it didn't quite land. "You don't miss me at all?" she asked quietly. I met her gaze. I did. "But not anymore." She looked away, then back, her voice barely above a whisper. "You were always too calm for your own good," I nodded. "And you were always too careless with something good." She didn't respond, just stood there, realizing maybe for the first time that I wasn't the one losing something anymore. When I walked out of the cafe, I felt a strange mix of sadness and peace. Not victory. I didn't need to win. I'd already learned that walking away isn't about pride. It's about finding your calm again. That night, I sat by the window watching the rain and thought about how love can fade into silence, and silence can turn into clarity. How sometimes the loudest thing you can say is nothing at all. Rachel once told me that people who stop caring always look calm. Maybe she was right. But what she never understood is that calm doesn't mean empty. It means being full of everything you finally learned to let go of. I wasn't jealous that night. I wasn't even angry. I was just done. And sometimes being done is the most powerful thing you can ever be.